And how's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Roundtable podcast, where we're going to be asking a whole bunch of questions about the game that we love so much. I am joined by several other freaking-tastic content creators, and we are going to figure out who these people are, and we're going to figure out what they enjoy about the game. So, kicking things off, Blanco, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
All right, everybody, editor, we're going to cut to camera number 3. We're going to zoom into the Mimikyu. Zoom in all the way till all you see is the Mimikyu plush in the background. We're going to do that. Hold it, 5 seconds. Earthquake effect. Zoom back out. One shot to me. Hey, everybody, it's Blandco. I do a channel that talks about D&D stuff and crafting, and I generally make stuff out of garbage that I find at the Goodwill by the pound.
Heck yeah. Flutes loot.
Yeah, so I'm Flutes by codename. My real name's Jordan, if you want to call me that. And my wife and I have our D&D channel and a website. We talk about anything D&D, but a little bit of just broad things that apply to many things, TTRPG. Been getting more into Critical Role lately, and we talk, and hopefully you talk to us too.
Wally.
Hey folks, Wally DM here, and I have a best-selling puzzle book on Drive-Thru RPG. Check it out, and I also have videos on traps and puzzles on the YouTube as Wally DM.
And how's it going, everyone? I'm No Fun Allowed, and contrary to my name, I sometimes allow fun. Alrighty, let's dive into these questions and totally not flub these lines. What's it like being so rich that you all can afford chairs? What's that like, being so privileged as you all are?
I was born with a silver chair in my butt.
So it's no secret that 5th edition is in fact the 5th in the line of the D&D lineup. Although you could make the argument that there's more than 5 editions of D&D. Regardless, at some point there will probably be a 6th edition of D&D. My question to you all is, will the announcement and subsequent release of a 6th edition significantly impact 5th edition? Considering we have so much in the line of 5th edition, there has been the biggest amount of content created for it. Will this hurt 5e? Blanco, go ahead and tell us your thoughts on that.
Well, let me tell you something. D&D 6e will 100% wipe away 5e completely. 5e is the most monetized, commoditized version of D&D to ever exist, which leads to a lot of positive stuff. So some nobody like Wally can create a third-party book, which will become very popular and stuff like that. Some nobody named Blandco can do like a little dumb little thing on the DMs Guild, which will actually earn me more money than my YouTube channel ever has. So yeah, it's got a lot of positives, a lot of negatives, but 5e is just going to go away because there's too much going for 5e. So whatever 6e is, it is going to be easily something that's easily convertible. So the 5e stuff is just going to be designed where you're going to be using 6e from now on, and if you want to use the 5e stuff, you can convert it. It's going to be designed like that. It's going to be very similar to 5e, but with more systems that can easily just be added to the old stuff. I think they're not going to reinvent the wheel. The biggest thing coming forward, I think, is going to be ways for the players to more easily influence the story. Star Wars Fantasy Flight game, where they had the entire dice system for players to be able to actually influence what is going on in the story as a game mechanic. That's my biggest prediction. That's going to be one of the big systems in 6e, because frankly, all this money, all this cash, Twitch streamers, it's all just improv. They're just using basic improv and then shoehorning it into D&D, which is supposed to be, pretty much like half of what I would consider improv and half gameplay. So they just want to merge that quicker so they get a nice slice of that old Twitch money that's happening right now. And yeah, it's going to come down to it because Hasbro saw the money that was coming in from Twitch, and so they're not going to say, "Oh, we don't need any of that. We just keep that far away from our product." They're going to want products that can more agilely fit into that and say, "Hey, if you want to run a game like that, don't take improv classes. Just buy 6e, which has the mechanics baked in." And that is my lock of the week. And I've never been wrong, by the way. So
Not once.
feel free to write that one down.
Not once,
Not once.
ever.
100% on the internet, baby. Never wrong.
I think Abraham Lincoln said something about the internet's never wrong. Flutes loot. What are your predictions?
I think I agree with Blandco a lot in that when 6e happens, it's going to be like an evolution of 5e, and it's kind of 5e is going to kind of go like peace, and then it's gonna like disappear, and then all of a sudden it'll like reappear with a new haircut, like, yo, it's me 6E, you know. And it's gonna be very much like 5E. They might not even call it 6th edition. Who knows, right? But I think it's really not going to be a massive departure because 5E is so modular and people can do so much with it, and it makes a lot of money. The new Hasbro CEO was over Wizards of the Coast and D&D and everything, so I think he knows his baby and he's going to treat it good. A thought came to my mind with this question, which was, I bet Wizards of the Coast is going to coordinate with big streamers like Critical Role when there is a big rollout to see if like they will push the new mechanics and actually like feature them, kind of like when they switched from Pathfinder to 5e when they started streaming with Geek and Sundry. I bet that's something, a conversation that will happen between Wizards of the Coast and some big influencers to be like, hey, the 6E's coming out, you want to use some of that? You know, I just bet that's going to be a conversation. And so I don't think it's going to hurt 5e, because like other past editions of D&D, people who are just happy with it will keep using it, but they won't be trying to make money off of it anymore. So to say that it will hurt 5e monetarily, I don't think that will be the case, unless they really botch something. I don't know. But yeah, that's my general take on it.
Here's hoping there's no botching. Speaking of, Wally, your take.
I have a little bit of a different take on it. So I'm pushing 6E off into the more distant future, more towards hopefully my retirement at some point in my life. What I'm looking at is, we all know that in 2024 there is going to be a revision of the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual. I don't think that is going to be entitled 6E. It may be, they may call it 5.5. They just might call it next edition of 5th edition or something. But as far as an official 6E, I would classify as 6th edition as when you can no longer use your existing rule books. When your player's handbook and your monster manual that you have on your shelf no longer work, then we're going to be moving on to 6E. And in 2024, I definitely see that just being a 5.25, a 5.5, somewhere in there. They're going to clean up a lot of stuff. They're going to throw their errata in. They're going to make some changes that they see fit. I think if 6E ever does come along, yeah, it's going to squash 5th edition. You're going to have a lot of them that are going to hold on to like, no, I bought all these books and everything else. You're not taking this away from me. I refuse to go to 6E, just like you do when you go from every edition. But as far as trying to figure out when 6E is going to come, I think it's going to be right now. Hasbro 5th edition is, it's going up and up. They've got more people playing the game than they've ever had playing it. They're not going to stop it now. What I see as, and this is all speculation, what I see as being one of the downfalls, or when D&D starts going on a decline, is if Critical Role stops doing what they do. Because you've got, like, I think each video of theirs has like 1 million viewers. Over, between the live stream and then they put it on, video on demand on YouTube or whatnot, every episode is seen by 1 million people. Now Critical Role stops playing D&D. You've got all these players that watch that. They watch Critical Role and then they want to go play D&D. If that isn't there anymore, then their desire, a lot of the people that Critical Role brought in, they'll probably take out with them. And then it's at that point that I would see them, okay, let's get a 6th edition. We're losing a lot of players. Let's see if we can bring them back with something new.
Yeah. It turns out that influencers actually have an influence. Go figure,
Absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. So to that, I've actually got several points. First off being that Wizards of the Coast made $1.7 some odd billion in their last quarterly sales. And Paizo, their next biggest competition, only made $30 million. Wizards of the Coast is just dominating the market, and I don't think it is any secret that Critical Role pushed 5e, because my God, did they really push 5e? I think something important to consider though is no matter what edition of D&D, there will be people playing it because people are still playing original D&D, people are still playing AD&D, people are playing 4th. I know that there's people playing 4th because Matt Colville's pushing that recently too. So there's definitely a lot of people.
He never stopped.
He never stopped.
He never stopped pushing that.
Exactly. So there's definitely a lot of, there's definitely going to be a lot of holdovers for 5th edition, because in addition to that, I also just recently saw that if you owned every 5e book, both in physical and in PDF form, you would in fact have spent over $2,000. And there is definitely a sunken cost fallacy of you spend money, you're going to use the bejesus out of it. People are going to run those books until the words fall out of them, right? I think that's just the nature of it. I at some point in the far distant future, maybe, you know, when they get to 8th, 9th, 10th, 20th edition, maybe some editions will be not represented as much, but I think for as of right now, when 6th edition comes around, I think 5e is going to have a pretty solid base still playing it.
I have to disagree. Sunken cost fallacy is like, yeah, nobody wants the PlayStation 5 because they already have the PlayStation 4. And your average hardcore gamer has clearly spent at least $1,000 on PlayStation 4 games. And thus, they have the sunken cost fallacy. And they'll never want the PlayStation 5. And yet, we have people wanting the PlayStation 5 despite like the very limited games and functionality of it.
Well, there you go. What Wizards of the Coast should do is they should only print X number of copies of 6th edition and say, hey, we've only got so many copies.
Alternative covers. Alternative covers, they seem to already be dipping their toes into that.
Oh, yes.
What do we got? Yeah, he's got the white covers right there, folks. That's not the normal covers for that book. That's the alternative cover, which is very rare.
Limited time. You can only get that copy.
Limited time.
I think one of the differences, though, is like with video games, like you can play a video game so much and then you're kind of done with it. Some multiplayer games, they can last and stand the test of time. You know, Super Smash Bros. Melee is an example of that, and even Mario Kart 64. But one thing about D&D is whatever edition you have, you can kind of just play it all you want because you do what you want with it, right? But video games, it's kind of like you play it out and then like what do you do with it? Like even Skyrim, where there's like a lot of different things you can do, you start to just see all the glitches and the game starts to just become a big glitch in your mind, and it's less that like immersive wow like when you first played it. And so I'm really curious how it'll be with another edition since 5e was so big. I don't really know how it's going to go down with are people going to stick to it or move on, or I don't know.
But with that in mind, there are a lot of people that play. I'm lucky if I get to play once a week. There's people that play 5, 6, 7 times a week. And so they've like played like every character class. They've like DM'd like every scenario and stuff like that. So the people like that have played 5e so much, I could see them being interested in 6th edition. Be like, yeah, bring on the new stuff. We're ready for it.
Absolutely. And I think that's important to consider too, because, you know, this conversation undoubtedly happened every single time, right? You know, when 2nd edition came around, people must have been saying, oh, what about our lovely 1st edition that we'd spent so much time and money on? Oh, what about the 3rd edition, the 4th edition? And
then when the 4th edition was more like, Jesus, thank God we're going back to an actual D&D game. Oh, thank God. Vast majority. Yeah. Now, of course, there's a majority of DMs that just couldn't get over 4E and will continue to try to bring that back until the end of goddamn time. But yeah, most of the players, from the numbers I've seen, seem to be really happy about a new edition. Now, 5E, I think that it's going to be weird because, again, 5E, the big thing, the big draw, really easy to jump in. Not so easy, according to some people, to actually switch stuff around. And, you know, ease of use for DMs, according to some people, isn't there. But it's very easy to jump in as a player, so I don't know if there's going to be much brand loyalty when it comes to 5e, especially if my scenario goes through and 6e is stuff you can plug into existing 5e.
Absolutely. And that's also another big contributor too, is obviously, as we mentioned before, the community and the influencers. How much are they going to dictate 6e success? Are they going to push 6e? Are they going to make content for 6e? That will truly determine how many people follow through.
Oh, they will. Oh, they will.
It's out of curiosity.
Because again, those are the people like Wally was talking about that are just playing 5e day in, day out, once a week, twice a week. They're the ones who are already sick of 5e, and those people are definitely going to be jumping on 6e as soon as possible.
If all of you had to put a date on when 6e would come out, what date would you put on? I'll go ahead and start. I would say 2030. If I were forced to be like 6e is evident, what year do you think it'd come out? I would probably say 2030.
Wow, your eyes are so blue. I can't see the rose-colored glasses you're wearing. It's amazing.
I know I'm in the minority, but yeah.
That would mean 5e has a 15-year lifespan, which is honestly insane.
I think second, how Blanco would probably know better, but wasn't second edition around for like 12 years?
I
Oh, there was
don't
a
know off the
ship
top
of
of my head.
companies, but I
Yeah.
think it was like 1988 to 2000, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, I know they switched companies and everything else got bought out, but I mean, it lasted for 12. Yeah, there's a lot of books for that.
Mhm.
I'm personally probably betting 2026 to 8, somewhere around there.
2068.
What year were we
Flash
in?
Gordon.
What year are we in these days? I don't even remember. I can find out.
I'm actually going to go higher and say 2032, October 15th.
Wow.
Ooh.
October 15th.
Man,
Somebody's got a time machine.
you're throwing precisely here. Any reason?
At 7 a.m.
You're going to make a prediction, make a proper one. Because you're going to nail it.
I'll tell you what, if you're right, then my God, is it going to be like the best thing ever.
May I just give my date if I could?
Yeah.
2024.
24.
Because I would say, considering what Hasbro is going through right now, they're not going to do a revision of 5e stuff. They're just going to say, hey, here's 6e, here's the new books, and it's going to be very similar to 5e with new stuff, new systems tacked in those books. That is my thing. 2024. That's what I'm saying.
Whenever it happens, we all need to just agree to meet back here again, and so we can talk about it.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so yeah, is it going to be a big pill that we all have to swallow, or is it going to be a small thing that comes in doses? What is the future of D&D? Is it going to be a 6e, going to be a massive thing? Is it going to blow 5e out the water? Is there going to be a 5e loyal fan base? What are your predictions? Go ahead and tell us, because we would love to hear it. One down.
Those videos always do really good. Is 6e coming?
6e? 6e?
Mm-hmm.
Is 6e already here?
I was thinking of doing a video like, when does 10th edition come out?
When does D&D Vista come out? Oh.
D&D Vista.